This episode of the Lead Machine Growth Show is brought to you by Lead Machine, the step-by-step, tech-easy system for getting leads online. Are you ready to start attracting your ideal audience right away? Join the 5-day Lead Magnet Magic Challenge today at www.getleadmachine.com/magic. Say goodbye forever to struggling with lead magnets and say hello to getting your offers seen by your ideal clients. Welcome to the Lead Machine Growth Show, where you will discover how to tackle your tech, master your message, and design your dream. Paul Guyan, the mastermind behind the Lead Machine, introduces you to trailblazers who inspire you to implement life-changing solutions and systems you can model to nurture your leads and get your offers seen by your ideal clients who will invest in themselves and you. Be sure you visit our website at www.leadmachinegrowthshow.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, tune in and get ready to transform your vision into reality.
Hello, Paul Guyan here. I'm the Lead Machine Coach, host and creator of the Lead Machine Growth Show, the Lead Machine Coaching and Mastermind Group, Habit Force Coaching, and international best-selling author of Journeys to Success, Volume 2, and the Food to the Rescue Community Cookbook. Welcome to the show, and thank you for tuning in. Today's episode is a change of pace. We're going rogue. No, we're not protesting. We're breaking all the rules of building wealth, building a business, and building a roadmap to personal and business and financial success. Our guest today is a heart-centered female financial planner, #1 best-selling author, speaker, and owner of multiple financial services businesses, and she is going rogue. Conventional wisdom about personal finance has a place, yet it isn't always the place to start and end. Her unique approach to building and preserving wealth starts with a mindset and ends with life-changing impact. So let me introduce you to Melissa Myers. She's a certified financial planner, has been in the financial services business since 2000, earned the CFP Planner, Certified Financial Planner certification in 2012. She believes that everyone can benefit from a financial roadmap, regardless of where you might be in the wealth spectrum. Think of her as your financial GPS. She'll help you determine where you are and where you want to be, and she'll provide the services to help you pursue your financial destination. Giving back to her community is important. So in support of the local arts, Myers served a 7-year term as a board member for the West Michigan Symphony Orchestra. I didn't know that. Additionally, she is a member of All Shores Wesleyan Church and volunteers as budget coordinator in their Good Sense program. In November 2016, she became a certified faith and finances facilitator. She is a member of the Lake Michigan Estate Planning Council, the Grand Haven Eagles, Tri-Cities Women Who Care, Grand Rapids Alumni Chapter of the Delta Zeta, and serves as a board member for the Women with Knives. Wow, I want to hear about that. She is a self-proclaimed foodie, seeking fabulous restaurants, specializing in unique and amazing food, loves cooking, boating, and relaxing poolside at home with a great book, maybe Going Rogue. She stays active by skiing, playing tennis, and attending spin class. She lives in Spring Lake, Michigan with her husband, Ryan, and their son, Brock. Melissa, welcome to the Lead Machine Growth Show. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Paul. It's wonderful to be here. I've been looking forward to it. And thank you for the really nice bio introduction.
I couldn't have written it better myself. So thank you for being here again. Tell us your unique story. How did you get to where you are today?
Well, it's unconventional. I had no idea when I was in high school that I would be where I'm at today doing what I do. It's kind of interesting. My son's 17 and it's making me go back down memory lane and think about my path. And the path is really one that totally is not linear. I knew I was college bound, but I had no idea that I would end up in financial services. But what's really funny is my senior year of high school, I actually worked in financial services. I did a co-op position at the local bank. And so half of my school day was spent working. And here I am many years later. But in high school, I knew I was college bound. And so I went to college and I had a heart for wanting to save the world. And I thought I was going to become an environmental attorney. So my degree, my bachelor's degree is actually in biology. But at some point, I just decided I needed a little break from school. And I started working in a restaurant. And it was because of one of my sorority sisters, actually, who helped me get the job, made the introductions, because it's all about who you know. That was one of my first lessons of connections. So several years into working in the restaurant industry, one of my friends that I worked with told me she was going to apply at American Express Financial Advisors. And I asked her, well, what would you be doing? And she told me, and I thought, wow, well, I could do that. I had all this confidence.
Right.
And so the rest is history. In college, my mom really encouraged me to get my degree because I started having some questions about if it was worth it and, the time, the energy, the money. And she said that once you have your degree, nobody can take it away from you. And what I've learned is the degree opened doors, and it opened the door to an interview with Morgan Stanley. And then from there, I had a lot to learn. Good thing I'm a lifelong learner. And so now 23 years later, I'm still here.
Wow. And so in your bio or on your website, I did a little bit of research before, obviously. I know you're big on gratitude, as we all should be. Can you share a moment of gratitude? For whom or what are you most grateful?
Every day for life and for God and for having a divine purpose and accountability to serving and giving back. But so that's like the big picture thing that I'm always grateful for is having that spiritual connection to the higher power. On a day-to-day basis, I'm really grateful for my relationships, and I really try to be cognizant of spending time connecting people, helping them. For me, it's largely about service and being able to have that opportunity. My parents are getting older, and I want to be able to have as much time with them as possible and have no regrets. So I'm really grateful for the time that I have to spend with people.
Right. And I agree. There's no time like the present to tell someone you love, to forgive, to keep those connections going. People need to be connected. And Tony and I were talking, Tony Rubleski and I were on an interview recently, and we were talking about how the pandemic just so divided us. And it's great that we're back in person again, and that we can do a lot of things. Have changed, obviously, but we're on camera and on a remote, online connection. But face to face, there's nothing that can replace that. And so we do have to tell those people that we love them and show them so on a daily basis. Yes. Thank you for that. So getting to your book, Going Rogue, a financial guide for rebels, disruptors, and innovators. It challenges traditional approaches to financial planning. Can you share some key principles behind your approach and how it can help coaches, entrepreneurs, and small business owners build successful businesses?
Yes. So I believe that at the level of thinking about going into a business and starting down that path, that it's really important to have your personal financial house in order. And by having a strong financial foundation personally, you can transfer those principles over to the way that you might operate your business with the financials. The Conventional wisdom, whenever you think about getting your finances in order or just figuring out where you stand, establishing that baseline, the conventional wisdom tells you to go start a budget. Well, budgets don't work for most people, or if they are being worked, the worker, the person creating the budget usually stops. It's not long-term sustainable.
Now, your book, Going Rogue, a financial guide for rebels, disruptors, and innovators, challenges traditional approaches to financial planning. Can you share some key principles behind your approach and how it can help coaches, entrepreneurs, and small business owners build successful businesses?
Absolutely, I'd be happy to. The approach that I take is rogue. It's a little unconventional because I don't advocate starting with a budget. Conventional wisdom says whenever you're going to get your finances in order or figure out where you stand, that you should run a budget. And I disagree. I think before you get to the numbers, you need to get into your head and figure out what is important to you personally. And you can apply this in your business, whatever principles you have personally. I believe that it's a strong foundation to utilize and use as a roadmap in your business. So the first 3 chapters of this book about financial strategies doesn't even talk about finances. It talks about your values and what's important to you. Now, I do have the best investment as a chapter in that section. However, it's not going to give you the best stock tips of the day or how to invest in mutual funds. It's not about investing in the market. So I'll let the readers discover what the best investment is.
Okay. So, and rebels, disruptors, and innovators, obviously that's a metaphor for going rogue. That does sound quite different. Why now? Why now did you write that book?
It was a book that needed to be written because what I've discovered is that traditional financial services, they kind of have it backwards. And that's a bold statement to make. But, when you get your licenses and you're going to go into business and you're going to be a financial advisor, the whole thing is about bringing in assets or finding ways to sell something, be it insurance, an investment account. And what I've realized over the years, and this started way back when I first started, is that people really have a disconnect between their heart and their head when it comes to finances. Typically, they try to approach things from the logical piece and they forget about the emotional piece. And the emotional piece, it doesn't matter if you have a negative net worth or a positive net worth. Typically, money represents security. So that's a commonality. But there's different emotions that come up from shame and guilt. Wealthy people feel guilty because they have money. And, when you're spending and maybe accumulating debt and things are out of control and you're not really thinking about the future, there's a sense of shame that you didn't do better or you didn't know better. And so my approach is to try to bridge the gaps between the emotions by getting into the numbers. And I don't know of anyone who can truly say that they're 100% always on task with their finances. There's ebbs and flows and there's seasonality. And so I think that even if you've got systems in place and you're on autopilot, that it's really important to come back and do a deep dive and look at the truth about the numbers. So somebody might say, oh my goodness, yeah, I don't need $1 million or I don't need to have a huge income. I always like to challenge that. And the challenge question is that actually true? Because the stronger financial foundation that you have, you can go out and you can do things like create a business. And that business solves a problem. So the disruption piece comes in by looking at what's already in place and then bridging the gap. And you can have a huge opportunity to serve people by filling that gap And that's what I've done. I have the traditional financial services type business with financial planning, and we implement with investments and insurance. But the other side of it is the coaching and courses and understanding more of the basics so that there's a foundation that is both logical, but it's also building and giving the participants a strong emotional foundation rather than a weak or negative emotional foundation.
Wow, yeah, and so you're more focused on what their desires and hopes and dreams are, and how the ebbs and flows of their emotions might affect where they are, where they're going, and they may change course. They may want to have things that they hadn't thought of when they go through that um, process of finding out who they are, where they want to be, and what they want to do with their lives. Like that band Twisted Sister had a song, "I Want to Rock." What do you want to do with your life? When you focus on the numbers, I agree. When you focus on the numbers, it just it's just so hard to say, well, how do these numbers get me to where I want to be? And
Well,
so
and it,
when you know where you're going or where you want to go, it makes that the other things fall into place. Is that kind of what you're saying?
yeah, and I've been learning. I wouldn't say I'm an expert at all, but I'm learning about neuro linguistic programming, NLP,
Uh-huh.
and the concept of either we as humans tend to be away, where we're moving away from a situation we don't want, or we're moving toward something we want. And when I go back and I look at how I operate or operated, it tradition or historically was that I was moving away from what I didn't want. I did not have a good strong foundation in finances even as a young financial planner, and I wanted to get away from debt. I wanted to get away from living paycheck to paycheck. I wanted to get away from just impulsively spending and not really having a plan for the future. But the big thing was is I started to get to the point where I thought I might lose my house because I didn't
Mm.
have the income and I didn't have the discipline to tell my money what to do. So I was at that point, I was moving away from what I didn't want, which moved me in the right direction. But I didn't set out going, oh my gosh, I want to be a millionaire and I want to run these businesses and I want to be a financial planner. I had no idea. It was like little steps that brought me to that. But now my mission is to help people get what they want in life. And that's why I love connecting people.
Yeah.
And so now that I know that there's a bigger purpose, it's not just goals of paying off debt or building up a net worth. Now it's purpose. And I think purpose trumps goals because
Mm.
it's what motivates you and keeps you going. And so, some people can say, yeah, I want to go out and do, something big. They have a great, big, huge plan. But if they don't have those little steps along the way to get them there, it's easy to fall into a victim trap or just it didn't work or whatever, things were against me and I tried but it didn't work. When you've got purpose behind it, it's going to get you through all of those hurdles and roadblocks because you'll find a way. There's always got to be a better way.
Yeah, there does. You mentioned the fear of losing your home.
Yeah.
As a business owner, we're always when we're bootstrapping and starting up a business, a lot of times we might have a part-time job or a full-time job, and we're starting this other venture that we want that maybe our purpose building thing in life. Uh, a lot of times we take those risks and we're in danger of and things happen in our life. We're in danger of losing everything. And I was at that point uh, 15 or so years ago. And it sounds like you might have been in the same boat. How did you overcome the fear and just how did you when you're that close to losing your home? I mean,
Yeah.
what do you do? How did you overcome that?
Well, this can be one of the biggest takeaways that the listeners can take from today's episode. It's to ask for help.
Ah,
You don't have to do it all on your own. You don't have to carry that burden and the weight. There's tons of resources. The World Wide Web gives us everything we need these days. But sometimes it's hard to muddle through what is out there or to figure out what to do and in what order. And what I had to do, I mean, I was at the grocery store and I was having to charge my groceries.
Mm.
And I remember like having the
I've
card
been
in my
there.
hand at the card reader and going, oh boy, something's got to change. And so I talked to my sister, 9 years younger, and she showed me what her and her husband were doing with their finances. And I started doing it. And what was really interesting is that I was then able to use what I was learning personally to help clients in my profession. And it's really where everything blossomed, and it's the basis
Mhm.
of how we serve our clients now. But you've
So
got to ask for help.
that was a turning point for you.
Yeah.
I had a similar turning point, and I had to ask for help as well. And it took a while. And for me, the key thing was faith. I'd found my faith. After 38 years of being away from it, I came back to God. And that's when my life turned around. I came back to the church. I got clean and sober, and started working towards. I released my first book, the Food to the Rescue cookbook, which was a catalyst for where I'm at today. But that was all because of almost losing everything. And sometimes I hope our listeners don't get to that point where they're about to lose their home, or they're in a bad relationship, or they're separated from their kids. I hope they don't have to experience that, and that they don't have to hit rock bottom to be able to turn around. But having faith and persistence is an unbeatable combination.
Yeah, I agree. I recently had clients who met with us, and I believe it was within a week, I received an email that told us some good fortune that happened. And I've seen it in my life. I've seen it in this example multiple times. But when you start to make positive changes, make the right choices and decisions, and take the right actions, because I think your actions start in your head with your beliefs, and then you can take action. When you start to do the right things, good things start to happen. But it's a matter,
Yeah, I
like you
agree.
said, it's a matter of faith. You have to release the old way and just trust that this new way is going to give you good results. And it's probably going to be results that you can't even think of in the moment.
Yeah, it's surprising how things come up and you go, wow, I didn't expect that.
Right. I
Yeah,
couldn't have
yeah,
imagined that in a million years. And wow. And that's the fun stuff, right? Like
yeah.
the unexpected. I love surprises. So I think that, yeah, when you can have those surprises and see the connections and correlations, that it's an opportunity to leave a legacy. But it's an leave a legacy in terms of how you're living your life on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
Is people will
By
watch and
by your
observe.
example. By your
Yes.
example.
And
Yeah.
for entrepreneurs and business owners and coaches, all of us, I'm going to put myself in the category of all of that.
Yeah.
The less risk you have in your life, the more confident and powerful of an impact that you'll make in the world, because you're
Hmm.
not operating from a place of fear. You have confidence, and as humans, we're attracted to confidence.
I agree.
So
Great.
I just,
That's
yeah.
a good one. So in my work with the Lead Machine Mastermind Group and my private coaching clients with Habit Force Coaching, I focus on the implementation of business growth, enabling marketing and technology, and of course, mindset. What role does financial planning and what you're suggesting on growing a business? How can coaches leverage let me rephrase that. When they're growing, a lot of times they don't really have a good financial plan. And so So what advice could you give to a growing business in their financial plan? So comes to mind the just measuring where they're going, having systems in place to monitor and to measure and to manage their cash flow. What are some suggestions that you would give to a small growing business?
I have tons of suggestions, but let's start with with the first one, going back to the personal front.
Yeah.
I teach a tool called Sunny Day Funds. And really,
Uh-huh.
what they are is accounts, so electronic envelopes, if you will, that you put money into for upcoming expenses that you know you're going to have. For example, you know you want to go on vacation, so you put money into your Sunny Day Fund for vacations and you set it up systematically so it just happens automatically. If you own a home, drive a vehicle, there's going to be expenses that happen where if you're breathing at some point, you might need a medical or you might have a medical expense. So I encourage people to have different accounts to put money into for known and unknown expenses. And I encourage that same concept in the business world, money for taxes, because nobody wants to be in debt to Uncle Sam. And there's going to be investments that you want to make in your business. So, a great business book that I recommend is Profit First, and it will teach people how to set up those business sunny day funds. And part of it
Okay.
is being able to pay yourself from the beginning. And
Right.
this is important because so many times we hear business owners say, "Oh, I'm not investing in the market because my business is my retirement." And that's a really dangerous place to be because there's probably several years between where that business owner is today and when retirement, when they sell this business to collect their profit. What happens in between if they become disabled or there's some COVID-19 or some other
Right.
disaster or pandemic that comes along that keeps them from having other options? And I think that the more options you have, the more secure you are because you've got a plan to build and protect your wealth. And part of it is releasing control and just shaving off a little bit along the way so that you've got something else to fall back on. And it doesn't have to be securities type investments. Maybe it's a collection of rental properties or something else that doesn't involve your day-to-day attention and time. Something that can work on its own and make money for you while you're doing your thing.
What else? So you got your sunny day funds,
Yeah.
money for taxes,
Remembering
and
to diversify.
diversify. Yeah.
Yep. And with regard to business owners and how they're able to flourish, I think it goes way deeper than just the money coming in and out, but why you're doing it and thinking about pillars of what your business stands for, what you stand for, what your business stands for, and making sure that your team is part of the mission and that foundation. I believe that making good decisions in terms of who you bring into your organization is really important. And the support that you have, be it, and it might not be employees that you're bringing in, but it might be your coaches. You and I have coached. I was trying to think back when I first started working with you.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a decade,
Yeah,
and
it has.
you were the person responsible for getting me to start writing
Really, I'd
because
never
you
known that.
encouraged me to write blog posts.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
so
here you
see, there's
are.
all those connections going
Yeah.
backwards. And
And
so
now
I
you're a
think,
number one author, best-selling author.
yes. Yeah. I acknowledge you in the book and the acknowledgments. So
Oh,
yeah, thank you for helping me get motivated and getting to a place where I just took the chance and I started writing and I had to get out of my comfort zone. And you need, as a business owner, you need people who are in your court, who are your cheerleaders, and who will tell you the truth. And so that's why you need your financial people. And it might be the bookkeeper and the accountant and your financial planner. And you might have a financial advisor for the business and a financial advisor for your personal. Oftentimes those end up being the same, especially for small business owners.
Yeah.
And being willing to make those little micro adjustments with your mindset and your actions, personal or business, that's where the real transformation comes, because you can't just jump light years ahead in your finances, but you can make little changes on a daily basis.
Right. Now, you mentioned, it was interesting, you mentioned growing a team. So what advice could you give about growing a team, and what's your approach to building a team that supports your business and your financial goals and your business growth goals?
The thing that's going to sound a little unconventional and a little rogue is to grow your team before you, quote unquote, need to grow your team.
I can relate. I need that right now. And I have that. I'm building a team. Yeah.
Yeah, you are. The thing about hiring, what I've learned is there's two different philosophies. Some will say hire for attitude and train the technical. Others will say train the technical. And I think it has to be a combination. It has to be the right attitude and mindset. It has to also be putting people in the right roles. Otherwise, they're going to be miserable. If they're not operating in their zone of genius, they're not going to be as productive as they could be for the team. And when you're bootstrapping and just getting started, everybody, I was wearing all the hats in the org chart, and now I've been able to start, releasing some of my hats and putting them on other heads. But if you have a team, like I love the Colby A and I love the disc profiles, because it helps me focus on, I had an interview, just a conversation a few weeks back, and I loved this person, absolutely loved them. And what they didn't have is they didn't have the things that we already have. I needed them to fill in some other areas of the team structure, and they didn't have those skills or aptitudes. So there was some of the credentials and the education that they didn't bring to the table. They had an awesome personality, but there's a time lag. If I was to hire that person, it's going to be years before they get to the point where I need them to be in this other area of the business.
Yeah.
So it's, I guess that's part of it, is being discerning and being able to make hard decisions like that.
I agree. We recently hired at one of my largest clients' business a marketing coordinator, and she had all the skills. It seemed as though, and this was a new position, so we weren't really sure yet what that role would do. But we know we needed a few things, some basics, and she really covered those. And she had a fabulous attitude. The problem was is that her work ethic was not what was expected. And we neglected to go over that and to say, this is how your day is going to work. It's going to be a little disjointed. You're going to be responsible for being here to answer the phones because we don't have a receptionist, and on and on and on. And so we didn't really get a perfect fit. Now that person is doing well, and because she has the skills and she's got a good attitude, and but there's some extra effort and accountability because of attendance, and not everybody wants to go to work and be there from 8 to 5. Not everyone. People want to work remote, and sometimes that's great. Sometimes that works out really well, especially for a small business owner or a coach who might need an assistant or someone to post manage their social media or do things like that. But when you have customers coming in to your business and you have phones ringing and you've got a staff on site that you've got to serve, it isn't always the right fit to hire certain people, even though they might have the skills and the attitude, they might not have the work ethic, which is something that really surprised us and my client that we hadn't thought of. And so the world's been changing. The
Yeah,
world's changing, and but we still, like you said, being a disruptor and an innovator, you've got to innovate and you've got to work with people, because there's more and more of that desire to work, to be more flexible. And so we have to kind of retool our businesses and our expectations on how things might operate. And so sometimes that'll surprise you, but sometimes there are some non-negotiables that you have to make
absolutely.
sure. They have to make sure that you're filled, and that's your point there. You could have hired that person, which would made you feel good, might have had great relationships, but you wouldn't get the thing done.
Right.
The fundamentals, you've got to have the fundamentals taken care of in your business, and your
Yeah.
team has to help support those.
And I think the small business owner has a challenge in the management piece and the leadership piece. And at the beginning, that small business owner really is wearing both of those types of hats. And it's sometimes hard to let go of the managerial piece and delegate that. And sometimes the leadership piece can get a little fuzzy as well. And the ability to wear both hats and be receptive to feedback, I think, is really important, because feedback, it may or may not actually be true. Going back to, is this actually true? But it can help you gauge your level of performance and what your team sees you, the light in which your team sees you. For about 10 years, I don't do it all the time, but like once a year, I'll take my son and just like, we're in the car, we're driving, it's quiet, and I'll ask him, what could I do to be a better mom? And that's a
Wow.
very vulnerable place to put yourself. And if you don't do that with your family, you probably won't do it with your team. I'm going to encourage everyone listening to ask the people in their lives what they can do to be better. And you might be surprised. Maybe you're doing okay and you're just being hard on yourself, or maybe there's some real blind spots that you need to be awakened to.
You're right, though. That is I did that with my kids. Like I said, had alluded to before, I was kind of in danger of losing the house. Ended up doing a short sale in the house and losing a lot in that whole thing. And my kids, the reason I turned my life around was because of my kids, because that was my purpose. I had to be a better dad. And so I actually went and took each of them to a restaurant, to their favorite restaurant, and had a date with them and asked them what I could do to be a better dad.
Awesome.
How am I doing as a father? And it was scary to ask that question. And but I think they told me what I wanted to hear to some degree. And they didn't really get the question because they were kind of young, but they gave me good answers and they gave me some things to work on. And I'm still working on some of those things. But getting feedback on your leadership and your management style is paramount to becoming better. And I think we all should be in pursuit of improving ourselves so that we can help improve others around us, especially our staff and our family first, and then our staff and our team. So let's pause for a moment and hear a word from our sponsor.
This episode of the Lead Machine Growth Show is brought to you by Lead Machine, the step-by-step tech-easy system for getting leads online. Are you ready to start attracting your ideal audience right away? Join the 5-day Lead Magnet Magic Challenge today at www.getleadmachine.com/magic. Say goodbye forever to struggling with lead magnets and say hello to getting your offers seen by your ideal clients.
We're talking with Melissa Myers about going rogue some unconventional strategies for financial planning and wealth and how that relates to business owners and coaches. And we were just talking about management versus leadership. Do you have any other things, any other tips or advice that you could give us on that? On being a better leadership, and maybe what's the difference between being a good leader and a good manager?
I believe that a manager does things right. A leader does the right things.
Mm.
And I had a debate with a colleague years ago about that, and they really didn't see the difference in the two. But I think there's always gray area,
Oh
and
yeah.
that's what a leader can do. Being able to wade through the gray area is a good quality of a leader, because there's circumstantial things that happen, and sometimes it needs to be looked at with a different lens and a different perspective. But then going back to your point about punctuality or or something like that, like we kind of have to show up for the things that we committed to. And that's another thing. When I was doing my book interviews, I interviewed a personal trainer, and I forget how we got to this, but I remember what she said, that she's noticed with her clients is that people who are successful don't cancel their appointments. People who struggle financially or personally, they're the ones that don't commit and don't stay attentive to their commitments. They'll be the ones who cancel last minute or just no show. And that was a really interesting takeaway, because it demonstrates some principles that lead to results, that you keep and honor your commitments.
Exactly. People who are successful, and I didn't come up with this. People who are successful do the things that unsuccessful people aren't willing to do.
Yeah. When I was studying for the CFP exam, I was still working at the bank, and people would ask me, well, are you going to get a raise when you get your CFP? And I said, no. And they just looked at me with this look of, and then they would say, well, why would you do that if you're not going to get a raise? What it's done by doing things before you have to do them, you're preparing so that when the opportunity presents itself, you're ready.
Yeah.
So proper prior preparation opens the door to the opportunity, so you can say yes.
And it prevents poor performance as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So you mentioned earlier this thing that happened. I don't know, they called it the COVID-19 pandemic, and significantly impacted the economy and just how we do business all over the world. Businesses of all sizes have had to adjust. The first word was pivot. That was the big word that everyone was using. But what advice can you give coaches and entrepreneurs and small business owners navigating the current economic climate and for planning?
There's a lot of negativity out there. If you listen to the radio, TV, you're on social media, it's doom and gloom. There's a recession. The real estate market's bad. The stock market's bad. Everything's bad, bad, bad. And I don't pay attention to that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't absorb it. I tend to see things as opportunity rather than the risk. So the risk is, oh my goodness, the world's out of control. There's a recession coming. What do we do? Well, if you have a strong foundation and you know your why, you keep doing what you've always done. And maybe you accumulate a little bit extra cash, or, you build up your storehouses for when the famine comes. But you don't have to operate out of fear. You can operate from a position of planning for an opportunity before you need to. It's crazy. Let's think about real estate investors. Real estate investors will hoard, quote unquote, hoard cash, so that when the market drops and housing values go down, they can go buy a bunch of properties or, commercial properties, whatever. People who haven't trusted that it will be okay with the stock market, they tend not to see things the same way a real estate investor would. They want to sell when the market drops. If your house drops in value, you're not selling your house.
Yeah.
If
Good point.
seeing what others deem as a risk is really an opportunity that you just haven't been presented with. So
right, with every adversity, there's an opportunity. There's a seed of opportunity. You just have to take advantage of it and plan for it.
Yes. And so instead of operating from a position of fear, you can operate from a position of confidence. The more reserves, the more margin, the more wiggle room that you have, you don't have to be operating from crisis. You can operate from opportunity. It's a mindset shift.
There's a mindset shift. And so what other mindset things should we be aware of and should we be considering? So number one, you talked about not operating from a position of fear, but operating from a position of confidence. What else? What other mindset advice would you give?
Well, it goes back to we were talking about teams and building out a team. And it might not mean they're a W-2 employee. It might be 1099 workers who have a specialty. And doing this book, I relied so heavily on other people, which was out of my comfort zone because I'm a control freak and I like to have things done and I like to do them right. My book is so much better. I am so proud of it. It's so much better because I used a team. There's from the editors, and I had probably 10 different editors help me, but it was also the graphic designer and the cover designer and the formatter and the coordinator and the person helped me get it on the web. And there was just so many components that it wasn't, because I've always kind of operated, going away from things. How can I make things better? How can I get away from this place I don't want to be? And it was always how, but now it's really who is the person that is going to best accomplish this thing that needs to be done. And
right.
That's a scary place to be. And sometimes we think, oh, I can't afford it, so I'll just do it myself. But what's your time worth? I built a website. I actually built 2 websites myself, learned a ton. And what part of that was good for the reason that now I know some of that language, SEO, I know about the backlinks and these sorts of things. So I can have an intelligent conversation with the people who can now do it for me.
Right.
And my time from a financial aspect is important, but it's also with going back to the relationships and the people in my life and having time to do the things that I want to do. It's leverage, a good leverage.
Yes. So you mentioned your book. How can people get your book?
You can go to my website, melissamyersgroup.com, and there's a link in there for books. And that's the best way. The ebook is there. The print book is there. And we are going to be having an audiobook release later this year.
Well, great. So we're starting to wrap up here. We're at the top of the hour. What question do you wish I had asked you?
I knew you were going to ask that, and I think you did a great job of asking me questions. I wish we had more time is what I wish, because there's so many components of financial discussions that can't all be condensed down into 1 hour for the business owner and the individual as a person. So I just wish you would have said, hey, Melissa, do we have all day? We'll do an all-day seminar.
Well, maybe we'll have to have you come back and talk about some of those additional topics. Would you be interested in that? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what are 3 things our listeners can do to put these ideas into action?
This is where you want to get a pen and paper, have goals, but have a purpose, because your purpose will carry you through achieving your goals. That's number one, purpose. Number two is systems. I spoke about sunny day funds. I have systems in place, and systems work. You just have to take a little bit of time to set them up, and you'll save yourself so much time in the long run. And there's all this different types of systems that you can create, from the financial piece to operations in your business. And then most important is invest in yourself. Get the people in your court on your team. That's an investment in yourself. Take time for your health, because if you don't have your health, you don't have any. It doesn't matter how much wealth you have. Your health is your wealth. So purpose, systems, and invest in yourself.
Great advice. I would agree. So Melissa has offered a free gift. A free gift is a double whammy. It's called Let's Get You Organized. It's a PDF you can download. It's a simple checklist and a how-to video to jumpstart your financial foundation. It's at www.melissamyersgroup.com/go/get organized. And that's Melissa Myers, MYERS group.com/go/get organized. And Melissa, thank you so much. Do you have any final words?
Yes, I do, actually. And I would like, if I may, offer another gift.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I would like to offer the listeners a free 30-minute welcome call. Okay. So anybody who might be curious if there's a way that I might, myself and my team might be able to help, the welcome call is a great place to start. And it's not a commitment. Just think of it as asking for help, asking from a place of curiosity. And that's also on the website. Book a welcome call at melissamyersgroup.com.
Okay, that's www.melissamyersgroup.com, and go ahead and book that 30-minute call. Thanks so much, Melissa. And everyone, there you have it. Going Rogue: How to Build a Successful Business and Financial Plan for Coaches, Entrepreneurs, and Small Business Owners, with our special guest, Melissa Myers. And remember, faith and action go hand in hand, so put the pedal to the metal. And until next time on the Lead Machine Growth Show, I'm Paul Guyon.
Thank you for tuning in to the Lead Machine Growth Show with Paul Guyon, where we show you how to tackle your tech, master your message, and design your dream so that you can transform your vision into reality. Remember to visit our website at www.leadmachinegrowthshow.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Lead Machine Growth Show.